was Halloween, everyone, and welcome to the Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. Tyler, how you feeling today? Game day?
I'm feeling good. I love Saturdays. I mean, it's like a full slate of NHL action. There's like 10-plus games on tap. Oilers going to finish it off. Hockey Night in Canada, Saturday night. Plenty of reasons to be loving it.
Obviously, the Oilers played the Canucks tonight, but as we always do, we're going to recap our last game. The Oilers faced the Philadelphia Flyers in their last game and also found themselves in a position where they got their first loss of the season. Nothing to panic about. It happens. We expected the boys to eventually lose, but let's talk about their first loss of the season. They lost 5-3 to the Flyers. Goals scored by Tyson Barrie, Zach Hyman, who is on freaking fire, and Connor McDavid. Let's go to the topic of conversation that everybody is, tweeting about, talking about, concerned about. Mikko Koskinen obviously let in 4 goals. He had 29 saves on the night. Are you worried about Mikko Koskinen going in net tonight? What do you think about his performance? Should Stuart Skinner be in the conversation? Let's talk about it all.
No, Stuart Skinner shouldn't be in the conversation because we've seen what Stuart Skinner is as an NHL goalie. He's subpar, and I get that Mikko Koskinen maybe isn't a great NHL goalie. He obviously isn't. And that wasn't his best start against Philadelphia, but this is a guy who through 4 games played, 3 of them are starts, he's a .926 save percentage. If you would have told me at the start of the year that the Oilers would be 3-1 in games Mikko Koskinen appeared in and he'd have a .926 save percentage, I'd say, yeah, we're giving him the next start. It was one subpar game. He wants the game winner back. He regrets probably turning it over behind the net as well, although I think there was a little bit more to that than just blaming it on Mikko. But I absolutely think he should be getting the start tonight. I get it. Oh, you want to see what you have in Stuart Skinner, but you also need to win, and Mikko Koskinen gives you the best chance to win out of the 2 goalies, so you go with him again.
Another thing that fans loved was hearing Zach Hyman, who has 6 goals in 6 games, may I add, mic'd up, and his conversation, relationship, maybe camaraderie with Jesse Puljujärvi. That's so exciting as a fan to watch because as much as they're jiving on the ice, they're jiving off the ice, and obviously that only filters through to creating magic for the team. It's so cool to see.
Yeah, they're a really likable team. Bag Milk's written about this a little bit over at the site, but the vibes are good with this group that the Oilers have. And I mean, the mic'd up Hyman thing, the yes, it was great. It puts a smile on your face. And the way Zach Hyman's playing on the ice is also putting a smile on my face because he just continues to have good game after good game after good game.
And talking about camaraderie, let's talk about Zach Kassian talking about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. He said in an interview, he's so versatile. Guys like him don't come around too often. The Oilers have their superstars like Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, but he says that he doesn't think Ryan Nugent-Hopkins gets enough credit for what he does, not only on the ice, but off the ice as well. Why is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as a whole so important to the Oilers franchise?
I think sometimes fans lump him in with McDavid and Draisaitl, and because he doesn't have that necessarily game-breaking skill that McDavid and Draisaitl do, everyone goes, he's one of the big 3, but he's the worst of the big 3, and people get mad at him for that. But I think you need to remember what Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is. He's a complementary player, right? He's not necessarily a play driver, and like Zach Kassian said in his presser the other day, he kills penalties. He's good on the power play. He can play center. He can play the wing. He's good in his own end. He covers a lot of bases for you. He's versatile. He brings a lot to the table. And yeah, is he going to score 100 points any given year? No, obviously not. But the other things he does, I think, complement McDavid and Draisaitl so well. And when there's a guy like Nugent-Hopkins on the ice who is always going to be in the right spots, I think that gives the skilled centerman that the Oilers have a little bit more confidence to take some chances offensively. And that's ultimately what you want McDavid and Draisaitl doing.
Love it. Sometimes my favorite part about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins' games is his passing. Some of his passes at the beginning of the season have been absolute fire, and I just can't wait to see him going. Okay, let's stop. Let's get towards the end of this conversation because we're ready to get over the loss and move on to tonight's game. What's one thing that the Oilers need to focus or improve upon from their game against the Flyers here tonight against the Canucks?
I think, again, preventing shots at 5-on-5 is going to be a big thing. They've done a decent job all year of preventing, those high-danger, grade A chances. Mikko Koskinen did have to turn aside a few of them. But if you keep the Canucks out of those dangerous areas in the offensive zone and you put pressure on them at 5-on-5, because the Canucks have not been a good 5-on-5 team. They're 23rd in 5-on-5 shots for percentage. The Oilers haven't been any better. They're 26th. But if you win that 5-on-5 battle, there's a clear advantage for the Oilers in the special teams department, no matter who they play. They're first on the power play, third on the penalty kill. So just make sure every shift, whatever line's out there, you're winning that 5-on-5 battle, and you're going to put yourself in a great spot to win the hockey game.
Amazing. Okay, let's move on to the opposition report presented by Yeg Burger. As always, I could eat a burger any time of the day. Wish I had one with me here right now. The Edmonton Oilers are obviously headed to Vancouver to take on a Canucks team that is 3-4-1, obviously led by their superstars in Bo Horvat, Elias Pettersson, who hasn't been doing the best. Brock Besser's back in the lineup, which we didn't see him in the first game against the Oilers because he was injured. The Canucks have lost their last two games of the season, so a little bit of a shaky start, to say the least, for this Vancouver team. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses?
The weaknesses right now for Vancouver is their inability to score goals. They've struggled. They only have 3 goals in their last 2 games. You mentioned Elias Pettersson. This guy hasn't scored at 5-on-5. He only has 1 even strength point on the season as well. They really need him to get going. They've gotten good performances from guys like Connor Garland and Quinn Hughes, but as a whole, their big guns have not been big enough for them. The strength of Vancouver is a couple of things. One, it's between the pipes. It's expected to be Thatcher Demko tonight. This guy's legit. He's going to be in the conversation for the U.S. Olympic team, and he deserves to be. I think he's a goalie who, over the course of the next decade is going to win a Vezina trophy or 2. I'm that high on Thatcher Demko. So if he's in the pipes, Vancouver's always going to have a chance to win. And when Quinn Hughes is on the ice, they're a much different team than when Quinn Hughes isn't on the ice. He moves the puck so well. They rarely have to spend any time in their own zone when Quinn Hughes is out there because it's on his stick, it's off his stick, and they're going back the other way. So if I'm the Oilers tonight, McDavid and Draisaitl on separate lines, I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that duo is on the ice when Quinn Hughes isn't, because the rest of the Canucks blue line, they struggle defending. So that's going to be one key as well for the Oilers.
Amazing. I just tweeted in our live Twitter chat to make sure you guys talk to us. Predictions, comments, thoughts, opinions, whatever you want. Talk to us. We're here to communicate with you guys live in our giant pregame show. All right, Tyler, let's talk projected lineups presented by Deuce Vodka for the Canucks.
Yeah, shout out to Deuce Vodka. Let's dig into these Canucks lines a little bit here. Connor Garland, so good they listed him on there twice. That's obviously not going to be the case. Bo Horvat, though, centering Pearson and Garland. That's going to be their top line. Pettersson on the second line, up with Besser, who wasn't in the lineup the last time the Oilers played the Canucks back on the season opener. JT Miller on the left side there. Their bottom 6 kind of leaves you wanting a little bit more. And again, that's probably the Oilers. That's where the Oilers need to get an advantage here, is to win that depth battle or do your best to get your big guns out against those third or fourth lines, because that's where the Canucks are lacking. And I talked about the blue line a little bit. Ekman Larson and Myers, 2 big bodies, but they don't defend necessarily good. So that's an area the Oilers could probably exploit them as well.
Awesome. And let's move on to the Oilers' projected lineups and maybe answer this question to begin with. If Yamo doesn't start to produce, which Oiler can you see being elevated to that spot? Thanks, Mike.
It's Warren Foegele. Warren Fogel's got to be the guy. He can play either wing. You can put him up on that right side instead of Yamamoto. Put Yamamoto down on the third line for a little bit. It's not going to happen tonight. We're still expecting Yamo to stay on that line with Draisaitl and Nugent-Hopkins. That line created really well. They, I think, doubled up the Flyers in shots when they were on the ice together last game, so I didn't have any problems with it. The third line actually was the one that got caved. The Oilers' bottom 6 was not that good against Philadelphia. So you need a little bit more out of the bottom 6 today, and there is going to be one change there. Tyler Benson going to draw in for Lamborghini Perlini. So I like Benson getting his second game of the year here. I think he just brings something a little bit different. I think his offensive skills are a little bit better. I know that's weird because Perlini was so good in the preseason and all that, but I liked Benson against Vegas. I thought he made some really smart plays with the puck. I'm excited to see him back on that fourth line.
Awesome. Okay, one more question. Is Yessi Du had a number of good looks against Philly from Kiwi?
3 shots on goal last game, and he just couldn't find the back of the net. And he had a great look in front that I think came at a point where he would have tied the game. So, is he due? I don't know if I'd necessarily say that because he's having such a good year. Like, he's getting his right now. He's getting chances, and he's finding the back of the net with some regularity. So 9 points on the year for Yessa. I'm not going to say he's due, but he's playing good. And on any given night, you're not surprised if Puljujarvi finds the back of the net.
You can only say Yessa the way Zach Hyman does now.
Yessa.
Okay, awesome. What is your bet of the game, Tyler Yaremchuk, presented by PointsBet?
Let's take a look at what the line is first, courtesy of our friends over at PointsBet. Stay sharp with PointsBet. The Oilers minus 136 on the money line. I'm surprised they're not a little bit more of favorites, just considering kind of how weak Vancouver has been over the last sort of week here. But I think a part of that is because Vancouver is the home team. So minus 136 on the money line, plus 170 on the puck line. They're also even money in regulation. If you're going to bet on the Oilers, I would take the even money in regulation. I think that's a smart play. My bet of the game, though, we gave some love to him off the top. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has a point in his last 5 games, a couple of multi-point games mixed in there as well. Our friends at PointsBet have him sitting at minus 133 to get a point tonight. That is where we're going with our bet of the game, which hit last game as well. So looking to make it 2 in a row with a Ryan Nugent-Hopkins point.
Am I okay to do my Zodiac report?
Absolutely.
Okay. It's for none other than Mikko Koskinen, because as soon as this game ended against the Philadelphia Flyers, I'm like, I got to know everything about this guy. He is, in fact, my favorite sign in the Zodiac. He's a Cancer. So for all the Cancers listening, you guys are amazing people. I don't even need to meet you to know that. This guy has the biggest heart. He cares about his family and his friends and his teammates immensely. His number one role is to protect, as he wants to do for the Oilers in net. I have no doubt that he's going to do his best to absolutely bounce back in his game tonight against the Canucks, and he cares deeply about that. Trust me, because if there's anything about a Cancer, it's that they care and that they want to protect, and I'm optimistic for him. So for everyone kind of on the fence about Mikko Koskinen, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully the Oilers move on to another win tonight.
Going over to the Facebook chat here, Will said Nurse opens the scoring tonight. Nurse is due.
Yeah,
and actually, I agree with that one. Like, Nurse has been throwing a lot of pucks on net. He's been jumping up in the rush. There was a couple of games ago where when the Oilers were shorthanded, Nurse was a part of a couple of 2-on-1. So I agree with that. I think Nurse could absolutely be due tonight. Ryan asks, when is Smith going to be back? Tippett did kind of say it was up in the air for tonight. I don't think it's happening, but he did practice fully earlier in the week. So I would say Smith is 50-50 for the game on Monday, and I would expect him for sure back later next week at the latest.
Awesome. Any other questions on the Facebook?
Dino said, should be a big concern that they're 26th at 5-on-5 in terms of shots for, shots against. And I agree. Like, that's an area this team needs to get better. And they've won a handful of games so far off the back of good goaltending and off the back of their special teams being the best in the league. If they get going more at 5-on-5, it's just going to be a little bit less stressful for them to win these hockey games. You don't have to rely on getting the calls, right? Like, we even saw towards the end of the game against Philly, like, McDavid was tripped behind the net. Yep. That's a penalty 10 out of 10 times. Absolutely. I don't know why it wasn't called.
Absolutely.
But play goes back the other way. Philly scores. Bad break for Edmonton. But again, throughout that game, if you're better at 5-on-5, you're not in a position where, that call costs you the game, because, I mean, if you get one more at 5-on-5, you're tied up anyways, or you have the lead at that point, right?
Can you give us your prediction for tonight's game?
Prediction for tonight, I think the Oilers' offense comes to play once again. I think Koskinen bounces back, but only a little. I'll say 6-3 Oilers with an empty netter.
Ooh, okay, I say 4-1, and I think Nuge is going to get one.
Yeah, I think, talk about guys that are due, I think Nuge is kind of due as well, and I was eyeing that one up. I didn't go there for my bet of the game because I wasn't bold enough, but he's like plus 250 to score tonight.
Be bold.
No, we play it safe with the bet of the game, but Nuge plus 250 if you want to throw a sprinkle. That's not bad.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to the Giant Pregame Show presented by Sherwood Ford. As you know, it's Tyler and Caroline here every single game day. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll see you on Twitter. Happy Halloween!